Hello and welcome to the Zwift Race Place. I'm Cade Fravel, and today we're bringing you live coverage and commentary of the BRT Thunder and Lightning series. This week's course is on R.G.V over in France, and we're starting out in our D category. This is going to be a chase race style race where the D's are set off first. Then we have the C's go off 3 minutes later, I believe. The B's 3 minutes after our C's, and then the A's 3 minutes after our B's, meaning the A's start a total of 9 minutes after our D race. And the way that this works is one category will win the race, and that is the category with the sixth rider over the line first. I know it sounds a little bit confusing, but the sixth rider in whichever category over the line first will win for their category. So you can see we're sitting in with the D category right now. This is Priscilla Marchand, and she's just warming up around 40 watts right now. As I said, our D race will be set off first, so we're just awaiting their start about 13 minutes out. And before we start anything here, I do want to take a look at our Velo Viewer. So over to the R.G.V. Velo Viewer, you can see this route 24 kilometers at an average of 0% gradient. It is a loop, so the riders will just do one lap of this. And the biggest climb is the Aqueduct KOM. That's located kind of at the back of the route here. If you look on the Velo Viewer, kind of straight across there. The Aqueduct KOM, a little bit of a climb there, but not really a big deal. The key selection points will happen in the colon, the twisties, whatever you want to call it. It's that last really twisty section before the start-finish line, and it's also a set of rollers there, so up and down, up and down. Our heavier riders will definitely do better there, because it's just a little harder for lighter riders to stick in with the group in a section like that. And the start-finish line does come just after those twisties, so it'll be interesting to see if we have any categories making the catch right in that colon section, because I think that's right around where a lot of the categories will be coming together before the final sprint. Alright, let's head on over to our elevation profile now, and I want to give you a little bit of a breakdown on what I think is going to happen on this course. So, as I've said before, our D's are going out first, just in the pens waiting for them right now, but I think our D's, there's a decent drop-off in fitness from the C to the D category. I think it's very likely that we'll see the C's catching the D's before the halfway point on the course. So I'd say we'll see the C's catch our D's probably before the pave sprint reverse. And then after that, it'll be the B's chasing the C's out front. And I think the B's, they tend to go all out. They'll probably catch our C's right around somewhere in between the Aqueduct KOM and the balloon sprint reverse. And so then with the B's out front, it'll be the A's chasing the lead. And I have a feeling that the A's and B's will start to converge right towards the end of the twisties. That's where we're going to see a real sprint happen. And I think our C's might be able to hang on up there as well. I think the D's do have some numbers. I have to check on what our largest category is, because numbers will also be important. I know the A race signups were greatly diminished. We didn't have as many A racers signed up as we did C, B, C, and D racers. I think B is the largest category, followed by C and then D. So the B's definitely have the advantage there. And we'll just have to wait and see what happens. You can see I'm on the start. If we go back here, you can see I'm on the start line here with our D's. And there's a lot of chat going on. Just people saying hello. We are about 10 minutes out from the start now, and I want to remind everybody to let me know who you think will win in the chat over to the right of your screen if you're on a computer, and you can click on the live chat button. If you're on a phone, you should be able to see that. But we just have a little poll running in the chat. Let us know which category you think will win. And for those of you just joining us, once again, chase race style, so it'll be a battle of the categories. Sixth rider across the line from your category is the one that counts. So it's important for riders to know also that they must be working as a cohesive unit within their category. This is not going to be an individual race. The winner of each individual category doesn't matter. It's all about getting your sixth rider over the line before any other category does. So we'll just have to wait and see. And looking now, we're under 10 minutes to the start of the D race. I've been watching Priscilla Marchand, but I think it's time to look at who some of the riders that will be pulling on the front for our D races. So over in Zwift Power, I'm going to head over to the signups now and just look at some of our top D racers. It looks like Joe Miller is ranked up there, as well as Francois Noel and Jeff Hill. A couple riders there. See a good amount of BRT riders in our D category. Although this isn't our largest category out on the road, believe that that award goes to the B category and maybe the C's. So I have to take a look there. Yeah, it looks like the C's have the most riders registered so far, but a lot of BRT riders registered in the B race. Also, a couple of other teams represented here as well. We see Dirt Rider, some Race 3R riders, and I also wanted to mention over in the A race a couple of big names. Howell Davies from the BRT, as well as Vicky Nealon, one of the Hino Racing Team riders. Hino, the top team in the Zwift Racing League PL right now. That's Zwift Racing League Premier League. So Vicky Nealon will be a real asset to some of our A riders out there right now. See if we can jump in with Vicky Nealon right now, see what her warm-up routine is looking like. Our A's still about 17 minutes out from the start of their race. They start quite a bit after the D race, and we'll get to see the live countdown to our D race still on screen here. Just gonna see if we can find Vicky Nealon. She should be over in the A pens if she's joined yet. Vicky Nealon here. So it does not look like she has opened up Zwift yet, but that's not to worry. We still got a while to the start of the A race, as we're coming up on 8 minutes to the start of the D race, and it looks like we've got 28 riders registered in the pens so far. Coming into the D's, that actually just went up to 29. And going over to Zwift Power signups, looks like maybe about 30 riders, 30 to 50, somewhere in there. I think we can expect a couple more riders to sign up for the D race. And the other thing I wanted to mention before the start of this race was sandbaggers, because they really will make a big difference in this race, as it is a chase race. It's one thing when you've got a sandbagger going off out the front in a regular race, and they take it and then are DQ'd in the Zwift Power results. But it's a whole other thing when it's a battle of the packs to see which category can get to the line first. And so if you've got a C racer racing in the D pack, they're going to be pulling that D pack faster than they would have gone without that rider. So it'll be interesting to see how sandbaggers affect some of our categories out there on course. And just looking in the D race, looks like we've got a couple riders who probably should be C's. I'm signed up in the D pens as a C racer, but I'm just doing commentary here. So it looks like 5 other riders who should be in the C pens are in the D pens right now, and that could benefit our D riders, as their sign-up number has just ticked up to 36 riders. So a pack of that size will do some damage out there on course. Over in the C race, I wanted to call out a couple of the top riders over here. We've got Basti Loken from the Glory Squad registered, as well as Warren Honey, Patch Harvey, and Jamie Watson from the BRT squad. And they're all BRT badgers in the ZRL every week, and these riders really tear it up over in, I think it's the EMEA West 2 division, maybe. I know they're definitely the most feared team in that ZRL division, and it'll be interesting to see what they can do. They definitely know how to ride as a team together. Craig Christie also up there as well from the BRT Badgers. So if they can really pull this C field, I think we could be looking at a C category win today. Scrolling through some of the other signups in the C category, see some Team Type 1 riders, but the C category really dominated by BRT riders here. So we'll see if maybe they've ridden as a team before and know how to drag that C category around. Looking over at the signups now, it looks like we're up to 40 riders registered in the D pens, and that number is still climbing as we're approaching 5.5 minutes to the start of the D race. Looks like Patricia Marchand has stopped. Well, I guess she's still warming up here, just pushing some minimal watts. Her heart rate sitting around 130 beats per minute. So it'll be interesting to see how ready riders are by the time we get to the start, and also what the start looks like. The start is definitely one of the unique features in a Zwift race. Zwift starts are notorious for being hard and fast, And as these riders aren't racing against each other, but instead other categories, we'll see if it's more like a team TT start than a standard Zwift race start. I know the WTRL team time trials, if you watch the starts in that race, riders go out hard in the beginning but quickly settle into their preferred pace so that they can hold that those steady watts and bring themselves in the fastest time possible. This is not a race against the clock. There will be a sprint on the line, presumably, if the riders are close enough to each other. Not within categories, of course, but category versus category. But it'll still be interesting to see how riders ride. We won't see many attacks going off the front, I presume, unless a rider isn't familiar with the kind of race that this is here. So, just interesting to see how well this category of riders who usually don't ride with each other can work together. And the signups have just hit the number 55, even if not all of those signups are Zwift Power signups, still riders that will be helping to pull this category around the course out there. And before we start, one more quick look at the course. I'll go to the elevation profile here. You can see those rollers at the end, also called the twisties or the colon. But another key point will be in the beginning here. You can see kind of in between the start line and the pave sprint reverse, there are a couple of bumps there, and it'll be interesting to see if riders can keep the category together or not through that section. Also, a little bit of rolling hills coming into the balloon sprint reverse. That's where the twisties really start. So we'll have to keep an eye on that as well. Before we get into the start of this race, just about 3 minutes away, I want to remind you guys to subscribe to the Zwift Race Place and like this video if you're enjoying the live commentary. We'll have more live race coverage, community coaching tips videos, and general Zwift knowledge. All right, let's head back on over into the pens. You can see the riders now under 3 minutes to the start. Patricia Marchand has got a nice front row starting spot here. See if we can take a look at these riders from the front here. It really is a big pack. You can see as we swivel around here, we're approaching 70 riders now, currently sitting at 68, and lots of riders warming up in the pens. Only a couple without those blue trainers on their back wheels now. As we're approaching the 2-minute mark, just under 2.5 minutes now, and everybody says, I think jerseys are all BRT jerseys when we're going to be coming into the finish line here. All riders are not required, but they automatically put on a BRT jersey when they enter the pens. So it looks like there's a little bit of coordination in the D chat here to try and put on yellow socks so that we can tell that you're a D, although it doesn't look like that's really happened here. If we look at some of the riders' socks, I see orange, red, gray, and a variety of other colors. So, you can use the leaderboard, but it will be interesting to try and determine which riders are from which categories as we come down into the finish, or when riders are passing each other, categories make that pass. It'll also be interesting to see whether or not the riders try and use the advantage of the large blob, or if we see a group of 6 to 10 riders trying to break off the front of this, team time trial it out to the finish, beat the other categories, and of course, 6 to 10 of the strongest riders. So, I really don't know if it'll be a small group or a large blob that would be faster if that small group is comprised of only the fastest riders in the category. But I suppose that will all come to rest in just about 1 minute now to the start of our D race. And Patricia Marchand is the rider we're going to be watching out of the gate. Looks like we have a 13-year-old in the pens right now, Jay Adriano. So we'll try and keep an eye on him as well. Still looks like Vicky Nealon has not joined in the pens in the A race, which is unfortunate. Looking forward to watching her race out there today. But we'll still have a great race with all of the other categories out on course. And I haven't looked, but I'm assuming that riders will be able to see the gaps to the other categories. We can check in on that in Zwift Power. We can see the category gaps. But for now, it'll just be the D racers out on course because our C race isn't set off until 3 minutes after our D race. So we're just waiting on the start now. 15 seconds to go. And 10, 9, and we are counting down. We see 88 riders in the start pens. And this will be the start of your first category to go out the D category. on R.G.V today. Interesting to see the start here. It looks like Patricia Marchand had a little bit of trouble getting up to speed. We'll try and move towards the front with some of the other riders here. And it looks like they're rolling out of the gates at 14 miles per hour here. Definitely a slow start considering it's a Zwift race. We see riders pushing right around 3 watts per kilograms. Just passing the C-pens over there on our right. And moving farther up through the category, see if we can catch on with some of the lead riders here. Looks like somebody may be going off the front already. Not sure what the strategy is behind that, as it is a team race in a sense. This is S. Conlon, the Irishman. Looks like he's making a little bit of an attack here, 4 watts per kilograms, and I can just check in and see if he's registered on Zwift Power, because I did not think that I saw him up there before. He will, of course, still give a draft benefit to the rest of the riders, though, even if he's not officially registered on Zwift Power. So Conlon and Corradini are the 2 riders leading this out, with the rest of the riders 6 seconds behind. This is not beneficial to our D category at all. We need those strongest riders on the front, pulling some of the weaker riders around the course. And I don't know if this is just a lack of knowledge of what this race type is. It is a chase race. Riders might not have been familiar with what they were getting into when they started here. But Conlon and Corradini not helping the team cause. We can go back with some of the riders who are still in the pack, though. Here is D. Rowbotham, Grumpy 5314. And it looks like these riders are working together, trying to pull back that group. And the gap is coming down to Conlon and Corradini. So we'll see if the 2 riders off the front can get the message that they're supposed to be working together here. So this is, we just saw Rowbotham moved into 6th place for a minute there, and as I said before, it's the 6th rider over the line that counts for your category, and already we're seeing big splits here in the D race. See if we can get an eye on some of those splits now. Looking back, and I'm not even sure that the next group will be in sight here. Here we are. You can see the riders really spread out on the roads now, and we're approaching 1 minute to the start of the C race. They will be going off in 1 minute from right now, but those other groups of D riders have been dropped off from this lead pack, which means it will be one of these riders in the lead here that makes the final cut and counts for their category across the line. D. Rowbotham, Grumpy 5314 is the rider we're watching right now. But let's try and go back in with him a little closer, see what these riders are doing on the front. They have not formed a line, which is one of the more efficient ways to ride as a team here. They're still kind of in a blob formation, and without Discord communication, my guess is that these riders won't ride quite as effectively together as they might if they were on Discord talking to each other. But riders still making nice work of this course. Our C's are just about to be set off about 10 minutes to the start of the C race right now, and these riders holding around 26 miles per hour. That's a decent speed if you're in a team time trial here, just up to 27 miles per hour for a minute there. But the group behind the group behind, that gap to the group behind is increasing, and those riders are dropping off. It is a larger group behind. They might be of some assistance in a larger group back there. It'll just come down to who has the legs on the day and who doesn't. And our C racers have now officially set off. So let's see if we can get back with them in just a minute here. Over on Zwift Power, we can check the Zwift Power live standings and see where our C racers are on course right now. These riders on the front of the D race are kind of forming a bit of a line here. As I said before, a more efficient strategy if they want to take turns. But one thing to note is that the larger group is coming back from behind. This small group will not be staying off the front. I don't think the gap is getting smaller. See if we can take a look at that now. Can maybe look back on the road. Yup, and here it is. These 2 groups are coming together over the bridge here, and we can see they're just about to be caught over in the front group. And some riders going right to the front. That back group was carrying a little bit more speed. And we're just about 2 minutes out to the start of our B race now. So probably time to check in with the C race. I said I was going to do that before. So with the C race now, I'm going to try and jump in with Warren Honey from the BRT. He should be right up there at the front, pulling on our C race because he's a really strong rider. Not necessarily a climber, but this is not a climber's course, so he'll do well in this kind of flat, little bit of rolling course here. This is, of course, R.G.V over in France. And we still haven't hit the twisties. Those will come at the end of the course when we're heading down into the finish line. We'll maybe see some categories making the catch. But here we are with Warren Honey from the BRT Badgers, and tons of ride-ons going off right there. Maybe a BRT rider dropped a ride-on bomb right there. Also see C. Siebold here as well, the TFC rider. He's definitely a name to watch. We'll just have to see who's doing the work at the front, because those riders are the ones who should get the credit for the win today. We see E. Mackman right now pulling on the front, but also C. Christie from the BRT up here as well. And that's Craig Christie from the BRT. A couple Irish riders in here as well. T. Poole, 14 years old. I was mentioning that we had a 14-year-old over in the C category during the pre-show, so it'll be interesting to see if he stays with this front group. It looks like our C's have got a little bit of a better strategy going into this here. They've got a larger blob. They're kind of working together here. There are some C riders dropped off the back, but I think that the C's overall are working as a more cohesive unit than in our D race. And if I look over on Zwift Power now, we'll see if Zwift Power Live has updated, because we can maybe get some of the gaps from the C race to the D race. And it looks like the gap now has come down to 2 minutes and 25 seconds to our D racers. I did predict that we'd see a C race catch of the D race pretty soon in the race, and I think that we very well might see it before that first sprint point. And now, looking at Zwift Power, it looks like our B racers have already caught the C racers. Did not see that going through there. We'll have to try and jump in with the D race, and sorry, there we go. Zwift Power just updated. Looks like our B racers are trailing behind by actually over 3 minutes now. So our C racers really are making good time on this course. And if you look at the minimap in the upper right-hand corner of your screen, you'll see that a large group of C riders tacking back onto the back of this front group here, and they're sweeping up the back of the D race, catching our first D rider here. Didn't see him on the leaderboard, but he is up there on the minimap, and a D rider shooting through the back of the C pack there. You can see that as that little yellow dot shooting through that pack of blues. And now our second D rider has been caught from the back of this race. It is, of course, only the front group that matters in the end, but still interesting to watch, and the gap now down to 2 minutes and 16 seconds from our C's to our D's. Time to jump in with our B race, though, and if I go over with our live Zwift Power data, it looks like Andreas Gabriel is at the front of that race, so we're going to jump in with him. So Andreas Gabriel. Now Alec Debel at the front from the BRT team, so we'll take over with Alex Debel. See if we can find him out there. Alec Debel from the BRTs, and we'll be switching over to our B race in just a minute. Just give me a moment while I wait on that. Here we are. We're in the B race, and you can see they've been riding for 2 minutes, 26 seconds now, coming up on 2.5 minutes, which means our A racers will be going off in about 30 seconds. So keep an eye out. We'll have to keep an eye out for the start of the A race as well. They may be the category to watch today. They're definitely a strong category, although if I had to give you my pick, I would say that the B racers will be the strongest category. I mean, they're one of the strongest categories. A racers and B racers, obviously in the top tier there, but also they have one of the largest fields, second only to the C race, and it's very close in terms of the amount of riders there. So I think our B race is definitely the favorite to watch today. C race, I would put as second, A race as third, and then D race as fourth. And we'll see if my predictions turn out to be right here as we keep watching the gaps over on Zwift Power, because that's going to be where the real proof in this race is. And it looks like, just gonna head back over so we can see all of our categories here. And it looks like the C race and the B race, the gap not really closing down very much. The gap's still sitting around, oh, we just got an update, but the gap's sitting around 3 minutes and 11 seconds. So our B racers have actually lost a little time in this early section of the race. But the gap from the C racers to the D racers now approaching 2 minutes, which means we will probably be seeing our C racers catch the D race by the first sprint point. No points available at the sprint point, but by the first sprint banner on course. And if not there, probably by the Aqueduct KOM, which is kind of a good halfway marker for this course. The Aqueduct KOM comes about halfway. Oh, the gap has just gone out a little more, though. Our D race seems to be making good time as the gap to our C riders has come back out to 2 minutes and 9 seconds. But the B race who are watching here has started to close it down, now within 3 minutes to our C race. So the B riders seem to have gotten organized here. If we're looking back over on our Zwift screen, we've got kind of a blob of front riders here. We see a lot of the riders still tacked onto the back if you look in the mini-map. But in the front here, seems like the pack is getting a little bit skinnier. Riders forming some sort of a line, as much of a line as you can be in a blob like this. And we see A. McRae from the BRT moving up here as well. O. Bishop. These riders are all going to be... We'll see if they're going to take turns on the front, because that would probably be the most effective way to close down this gap. Although, in the end, it doesn't matter where you finish as an individual. If you want to sit on the front and do all the work for your category, that's fine as well. But it just matters where your sixth rider sits coming into the finish line, and whether or not you can make the catch on some of those other categories. And it looks like our A racers have started out now. They're about 2.5 minutes into their start, and the gap from them to the B race, that data still not super accurate, but hovering around 3.5 minutes. So let's see if we can jump in with the A race, and we're gonna try and jump in with Gautier Guerin, one of the French riders. No team for him, but he can still help out in his category here. Here we are. All right, it'll take a minute to switch over to the C race, but we're jumping in with Gautier now. And here we go. He's right up here towards the front of the A race. Howell Davies sitting right in the center of this pack. He's a strong rider. We saw him in some of our Veganuary live streams earlier on. Really dominant rider. And it looks like Vicky Nealon is on course. Vicky Nealon, the Hino RT rider, has made it today, and she's sitting up towards the front of this group. I don't see her on the actual Zwift leaderboard here yet, but Nealon is showing up on our Zwift Power Live data. So it looks like Vicky Nealon has made this front group, and we'll just have to wait and see if we can jump in with her a little later on. But if I want to... what I notice in this front A pack so far is that it looks like all the riders are here in the front group. Doesn't look like they've dropped anybody yet, which is probably a smart move. You know, we can start dropping riders later on. Maybe shed a few on the Aqueduct KOM and get rid of everybody that you don't absolutely need on the final twisties section. See a couple riders dropped off the back of this A group, but I think the more riders you have for the first half of this course, the better. It's a lot of flat-out racing on the flats. You don't really have an incline until that Aqueduct KOM. If we want to take a quick look back over at our elevation profile real quick, you'll see that Aqueduct KOM is the greatest incline on course, and even that is not that big. So you really want to use the draft benefits to your advantage here. Back over to our Zwift racers, and it looks like we've got Guerin sprinting on the back here a little bit, trying to hang on. Not sure why his avatar's in a sprint here. He's only pushing about 4.5 watts per kilograms, but he is moving up to the front here. And I'll see if I can jump in with Vicky Nealon now, because she'll be an interesting rider to watch as well. But if we move up to the front of this race, let's see who is pulling on the front right now. Oh, and also it looks like we've only got about a 1-minute gap to our dropped B riders here. But it looks like El Yan, who's making a pull on the front here. S. Breck also up here as well. These are all riders to be watching. Whoever can make a pull coming into this first section is probably going to be one of the stronger riders later on in the race. So, seeing if I can jump in with Vicky Nealon here. Okay. here we are with Vicky Nealon, the Hino rider, of course. Hard to distinguish between riders and even categories here, as they are all wearing that BRT jersey. That's the brown and orange jersey. But she is right here on the back of this group. Looks like she's sporting an S-Works Venge today. See a couple Canyon Arrow Roads and some Trons towards the front of this group. Bike choice will definitely be interesting. And once again, I want to remind you guys, let me know over in the live chat which category you think will win. Will it be our A racers, smaller category, stronger riders? Our B racers, one of the largest categories today and one of our stronger categories. C racers, definitely the largest with some of the best C racers in the business on the front. Or a D race, slightly smaller field but still packed with strong riders. Let me know over in the chat and I'll keep an eye on that. Alright, I think it's time to jump back in with our C race and see how they're doing in their chase on the D race right now. So we're going to jump in with Patrick Harvey if we can. I believe he's one of the riders on the front of that race from the BRT squad. Looks like there are a lot of Patrick Harveys, so maybe I better go with Warren Honey this time. A little bit more of a unique name. But here we are with Warren Honey from the BRT squad. It'll take a minute to jump in with our C race here. But he's still in the middle of this pack, along with all these other riders. I see Craig Christie up here as well. Just getting a little bit of an overhead view there. Now, heading back over to Zwift Power, let's check on the gaps again, because that is really where the proof is this race. Just seeing our A race gap right now. Looks like the gap from the A race to the B race is just about 3 minutes. It's still out over 3 minutes, and I think that is largely due to the fact that the B race pack is so much larger than our A race. That gap, alright, well, it's come back in a little bit now, but it looks like that gap is still out over 3 minutes. And the C racers have brought it down to 1 minute and 14 seconds to the D race. I said it before, I think that we will see a catch before the Aqueduct KOM from our C racers. 1 minute and 14 seconds, that is not much of a gap to close. And we see Seabolt and Warren Honey. Patrick Harvey was up here as well. All of these riders taking poles on the front. They're trying to bring that gap back in, and the gap has come down just a second there to 1 minute and 13. So, see if we can get... It's hard to get an overhead view here, but we can see that our C racers are about to lap up some more D racers. And D racers, if D racers try and stick in this C pack, it'll only give them a little bit of aid in their chase against their own category. So if I was a D racer, I'd say let off the pedals until you got spit out the back of the C race, and then just keep riding. You don't want to help out your enemy categories at all here. I don't think that would be the smartest strategy if you're trying to race as a team. But the gap has gone out back now to 1 minute and 14. So interesting to see there. But the gap from our B race to our C race has come down a little. We're inside 2 minutes now. And it looks like that gap is sitting at just over 2 minutes and 30 seconds. So right in between 2 minutes, 30 seconds and a 3 minute gap there. So they haven't closed it by much. But now the C racers have brought the gap to the Ds down to 58 seconds, and that gap is falling fast as they swipe up more D racers out on course. This will be the catch to watch first. I don't think our A racers will catch the B racers while we're watching our C category here. One of the categories in the middle here, they're both being chased and chasing others. Obviously, our D race doesn't have anybody to chase, and our A race doesn't have anybody chasing them. Nowhere to go but up. So, looks like we're coming through with some of the D racers here, and I don't know if this is the D race main pack. I don't think that they've made the catch yet. Looks like the gap's still around 1 minute, but it looks like E. Macman had the fastest time through the sprint there. Moving up, see if we can get in with some of these D racers, trying to judge where they are in their category. So here we are with R.G.V, and he is sitting 37th overall. So this looks like the middle D pack right now that they're catching. And our C race, the lead of the C racers, are already starting to peek out of the front of that group. And the gap still holding steady around a minute from our C race to our D race, but we'll get an update pretty soon on that. Looks like up here at the front, We've still got Murphy and a couple other riders. Let's see, if we go up with D. Rowbotham, he's sitting just about 15 seconds off the main pack here. And here is your front D pack. If I go to the back of this, you can see our C racers are now with insight on the leaderboard here. The gap is falling fast. Now 50 seconds to the lead D pack. We might not see a catch before the Aqueduct KOM, but I think we'll see the catch on the Aqueduct KOM at least. And turning my eyes back over to my Zwift Power live screen now, it looks like the gap from the A race to the B race has come down just a little bit. Only 3 minutes and 3 seconds between those two categories. I don't know that our A race will be able to make the catch. They only have 21 riders in the front pack compared to 46 in our B race. That's a huge advantage in terms of pure numbers there. In the B race, in terms of levels of fitness, not always that much lower than our A race. So I think we'll see the B race manage to stay away. But the A race might still catch some other categories. It's all still up for grabs right here. We aren't even halfway through yet. And looks like Bryn Griffith, one of the leaders of the BRT squad, trying to organize a little bit of teamwork in our D pack as the gap has come down to only 26 seconds now. 26 seconds from our lead Cs to our lead Ds. This is going to be a tight race. I don't think they'll catch them before the Aqueduct KOM banner, although we do see a couple of C racers sprinting for it. Interesting choice there. Looks like S. Doucet, the Canadian, has gone off the front of our C race. He might be the first rider to catch the Ds. I don't know if he's just looking for the glory of that, or if this is, don't believe there's any points available here. So, Doucet just going off the front there. I think S. Ogden is going to be one of the first riders to drop from this front group in the D race. He's about to get swept up by Doucet right now. Ogden from the BRT has fallen off the back of that D race just a little bit, and he's going to be the first of that original front pack to be caught, swept up by our C race. A lot of our C racers are still quite a ways behind this lead C rider here because he went for a sprint for some reason. He went over the Aqueduct KOM pretty hard. And it'll be hard for him to bring back that group of Ds without a pack here. So, maybe not the smartest move. I think just a waste of energy in the long run. But, back over to our Zwift Power gaps, it looks like the A riders have brought their gap within 3 minutes now. 2 minutes and 59 seconds from our A's to our B's. And the gap's still holding around 30 seconds from the C's to the D's. We see K. Eduardo moving to the front in this, just Edward. K. Edward moving to the front of this little C pack here. And the rest of the C riders still a ways behind. These three need to just let up, come back to the group, and we can chase these Ds down as a pack effort. Now if we go into the front D group here, looks like G. Kiwi, P. Lobo. These riders are the front D group here. And I'm just going to try and zoom out and see if we can see the C riders on the road. You can see our D riders coming through the little town here, but I think it's still too far out to see the C's. Can't even see them on the mini map here. But this is your lead D pack, and they're just trying to stay away right now. They've only got about a 24-second lead as they're coming through this little town here in France. Next they'll head out to what I believe is the balloon sprint reverse, and then it's a trip through the twisties down into the finish. D-Race might have this here if they can hold out, but the gap's still coming down right around 24 seconds right now, and the C's are hot in pursuit. Our B and A categories still a ways behind. I'm a little surprised that the B's have not made up more ground so far. Their gap now sitting around 2 minutes and 20 seconds to the C race. So we're only about halfway through the race here, and our B's have not even made up half of their deficit to the C's yet. I think we might be looking at a race between the D's and the C's for the win today. Once again, just want to remind you that it is the 6th rider over the line that counts. And right now we're in our leading pack. This is the D category, and they've lost quite a few riders here. Only a lead pack of, well, it looks like about 20 riders here. Zwift Power is showing it as 15, excluding non-Zwift Power signups. So, looking at about 20 riders trying to keep that gap away from the C riders, but the gap now down to 17 seconds we're going to see a catch happening pretty soon here. All right, got an update from Darren Green that the A's are now at the Pave sprint. That was the last sprint before the aqueduct. And checking on Zwift Power, it's lagging behind just a little bit, but I can confirm that they are just past that sprint. And now looking at the gap, our C Riders have brought the gap down to 11 seconds. This is going to be the chase of a lifetime for the C race. They'll easily catch the D race before the finish. You can see both categories out here right now. We'll see if we can go up. This is the C race, and if you just look up in the distance, you can see our D race. They're just around this bend here, rounding the corner. Once we come out onto this straightaway, our C racers will be able to see them, and it's a fierce race right now. 9-second, 8-second deficit. Our C's are closing it down. Those D racers in sight now, and riders already going off the front. This is a race between categories, not something that you see every day in a Zwift race, but it's what's happening here, and our Ds are just about to get caught. They're making a last push here, the gap out to 8 seconds, but it will be futile. They're not going to be able to stay away from this C-Pack right now. And then the real question will become, will our B riders be able to close the gap to our Cs, and will our As be able to close the gap to our Cs? Because right now it looks like the gap from the Bs to the Cs has come down quite a bit, around 2 minutes and 15 seconds, with the A riders about 3 minutes behind that, so 5 minutes, 15 seconds. They've closed down about 4 minutes of their initial deficit to the C race, about 2 minutes of their initial deficit to the C race, about 5 minutes of their initial deficit to the D race. But we're seeing the catch happen right now. You can see the two packs converge, and our C racers are going to come out on top. This is the first catch of the race. This is the BRT Thunder and Lightning series, and it's exciting already with the first race on the road. R.G.V. over in France. All right, here we go. Our C racers approaching the balloon sprint reverse, and I think the next pack that we want to take a look at is the B pack, because they're going to be the next ones to catch that group of D riders if they can. Zwift Power Live has not quite updated yet, but we'll start to see the new gaps coming in pretty soon. I don't think our D race is going to be able to close back to the C race, though. There will be interesting to see if maybe a couple D racers, if the D race can get 6 riders into this front C group, it will still be a sprint on the line to see which category can take it. And to be honest, it's going to be an incredibly confusing sprint for me to commentate if I'm trying to figure out which category gets their 6th rider over the line first. In the end, it'll be chaos, really. And it looks like still waiting on an update from Zwift Power, but the gaps are going to be coming down pretty soon from the B race to the C race. So this will really be the race to watch now. Just going through the leaderboard, I see 1, 2, 3, and these D riders at the back. If they can latch onto this group, then our Ds still have a shot. And it all comes down to these few riders struggling at the back of the C-Pack right now. Because if they can get 6 riders into this front group, then that's where the real race is going to happen when we hit the finish line. I said I was going to go back with the B race, so I'm going to try and do that now, because next pack to watch out on the road. Excuse me there for a minute. See, Bryn Griffith has managed to stay in this front group here. He is of course the organizer of this event, one of the BRT team directors. All right, so we're gonna try and head back in with Alec Diable again, that rider who was off the front before. We'll see what he's up to now, because he's the leading B rider right now. And getting confirmation now, it looks like the gap is sitting around 2 minutes and 4 seconds from the Bs to the lead here. So just have to wait on that gap, see if that comes down at all. And here we go, in with the B race. They're just about to come through this sprint banner as well. And I don't think, there's a couple of C groups in sight. I don't know if we can see our lead pack up there on the mini-map quite yet. But if our B racers can keep pushing some top watts here, we'll see maybe the next catch on the road happening pretty soon. Zwift Power does have this experimental feature where I can see all the gaps as they're happening in real time, but it's an interesting graph, a little hard to follow. So I'm sticking with just the pure numbers, and it looks like it's come down to 2 minutes now. 2 minutes from our B race to the leaders of this overall, which includes the C race and maybe a couple of Ds if they made the cut. And then it'll be a sprint for second maybe with some of the drop D racers. If the 6th rider ends up in the second D pack on the road, then it will be an interesting sprint for second place in the team category as well. If these B racers if the A racers aren't able to make the catch on the front pack. And right now it's all coming down to this. We see a gap of 1 minute and 54 seconds right now, with another update coming in 10 seconds. So 1 minute and 54 seconds now. Tom Jaggers from the BRT is up here, and it looks like our B riders are just about to blow through this next group of C and D riders here. Not quite our front group yet, but our C's will be approaching the finish line. It's not too far until our C's hit that finish line. So it looks like I'm only seeing 2 riders from the D category managing to stick in the front group there. But we'll just have to see what happens with that. And if we head back to the B category, it looks like the gap has now it's still sitting at 1:54, excuse me. But if we look over on our live updating map, our D's and C's are soon to be in the twisties. They're just starting the twisties right now, actually. So we're looking over to the live chat. It looks like the A's passed the Aqueduct KOM at 14.6 kilometers, and they're slowly reeling in the B's. Howell's in disguise in B. All right, so I don't know if that means that Howell Davies has managed to close the gap up to the B race. Maybe a little bit of a clarification from Edu Harms over in the chat. Edu, if you want to give me a clarification on what that means, that would be great. But we're going to try and jump in with the C and D pack, the leaders right now of this race, because they are the ones that could be deciding the finish here. And they're not too far up the road. I'm just going to try and make my way up to them through the leaderboard over here. I can see some D's up off the front. These riders sitting right around 11th place. Here we go. This is our 5th D rider on the road. 4th D rider now. This is the group behind our lead C's, I believe. And here we are with A. Belay. He is a C rider leading out the leading pack here, I believe. 4th place overall right now. So this is back with your front pack. And as I said before, they're in the twisties. I can zoom out on the mini map a little bit here. And you can see it's a long road through the twisties. They're not even close to halfway there yet. But some of the other categories popping up on the map there as well. You can see the B race quite a ways behind still. I think that our C's have this one locked up. To be honest, I don't think that the B's are going to be able to close that gap. But I'll head back over to Zwift Power now so I can keep an eye on that gap. And it looks like just waiting that we've got an update in the next 27 seconds or so. So the gap now down to 1:45 from the B's to the leaders. That's only about half of their original deficit to the C's. I don't think that they're going to be able to close that much ground coming into the finish here. We're approaching halfway through the twisties for our lead group. They're really flying through this. Great formation here. We've got some riders off the front doing the work. I see Warren Honey, Craig Christie still up here in the front. And also some D's sticking around in this front group to try and get their 6th rider across the line ahead of our C's. Really don't see it happening, but they're still sticking around up here trying to help our D riders take 2nd place, I would assume, out there. I think our B's have a good shot at 2nd, though. It will all come down to the finish line here, and we've just about hit halfway through the twisties now. After the twisties, it's only about 2 kilometers, I would estimate, to the finish. So really tight race here between all of our categories. I think our A's really just off on the wrong foot because of their deficit in terms of their number of riders in their category. Looks like Zwift Power only showing them as having 15 riders in their lead group right now, and that's just not enough to do enough damage, close those gaps. I did see over in the live chat, Edu Harms said Howell is in disguise in the B race. I know Howell Davies is an A racer, and I'm wondering if that means that he was able to go up the road and lodge himself in the B race. Obviously, you can't tell the difference between categories unless you look at the leaderboard there. So All right, I see Edu Harm says Howell Davies in the same race. Just funny. All right, there we go. So a little bit of clarification there. But turning our eyes back to the race, they are within a couple of kilometers of the finish now. I can see the finishing banner up on the mini map there. We'll bring it back down in a little bit here. But they're only about a couple kilometers out from the finish to this race, and we already see a couple C's going off the front. That might be a smart strategy now, as if our C's can just get 6 riders off the front, they won't have to worry about any of the D riders left in this pack. We see M. Guigan, Spud's Backyard, S. Duche, and somebody bodybuilder. Couple of riders trying to make the split there. If they can just break off, put those D's left in this front pack in distress, they will be all set coming into the finish line. Yep, Darren Green says C's got this, and I think I would have to agree with him here. Before we come into the finish here, I want to remind everybody, if you're enjoying the live stream, please subscribe to the Zwift Race Place and like this video if you're enjoying it. All right, but back to the race now. They're coming into the final corner before the finish line. If you look, sorry, no, this is not the final corner. The second to last corner before the finish line, this up here will be the final corner, and once they round this, you'll be able to see the banner. Looks like all C's coming into the finish here. Not even contested by any of our D riders. So our C category has won today in the BRT Thunder and Lightning race, and they're all sprinting for it here, which is interesting. But you know, staying away from our D category there. They made the catch, and I have the feeling we'll see the D's managing to take up second on the day. All right, back over. We're gonna try and jump in with our B race now, with Ale Ciaro, not sure how to pronounce that, but here we go. And viewing him now. So this is our D category. Our D's have, sorry, this is our B category. Our D's gonna claim second today. So second place goes to the D's out there on the road. They did have enough riders far enough up the road to get their front 6 riders across the line before the front 6 Bs. I think I can say that for sure. Although we will wait for confirmed results to give you the official standings. But Chiaro in the B category, they're going to take third today in the category standings. So it's going to go C, D, B, A. Not much of a mix-up from where they started. But those D's were caught, and you know, this hasn't gone exactly how I predicted, but it doesn't surprise me that the C's were one of the strongest categories out there. C riders tend to be quite strong, especially on a flat course like this. And there we go. Our B's officially sailing up third place out there on the road, and we're going to jump in with Vicky Neal on over in the A race. Might just take a minute to jump in with her. All right, here we go. This is Vicky Nealon, an A racer. Looks like she's been dropped from the front A group, so I'll see if I can get farther up the road with the A's. But, you know, I can say for sure that they're going to take fourth today, because all of our other categories have already finished up here. Here we go in this front A group. A Wood leading them out. We see Brzezowski, Robertson. I'm assuming Howell Davies is still up here as well. These are, yep, there we go. Howell Davies popping up on the leaderboard. These riders, great ride from them today. They just didn't have the numbers when it came down to it. And we'll wait, see if we can get some confirmed results here. All right, here we go. I can confirm that we had 6 C riders across the line before a single D rider crossed the line, so C's have it. I'll just have to wait for the rest of our confirmed results there. Although, from what it looks like, our B's might have managed to edge out the D's. This could be a tight race, so stick around until we see the official results. And of course, the A racers still to finish up. They're approaching the finish line right now. So we're going to get another update in about 10 seconds here, just as our A racers are coming up on the finish line. So we'll see if we can get some more D finishers confirmed. Looking at it right now, the standings before the finish, it was very close. If our D riders could have pulled that off. Did not get, just confirmed a couple more C riders. I think our B racers might have edged them out. Just awaiting the official Zwift Power results right now. We'll be taking the top 6 from Zwift Power. I'm pretty sure not from the overall Zwift results, although I can't say that for sure. And we've got a little bit of a sprint to the line here. Looks like Worthington from the BRT was up there on the front. I think Howell Davies might have taken the win on that one. Not that it matters. It was a category versus category race, chase race style. But all right, so now it's all down to the wait for the official results, and we've got more confirmed results in. So I'll read those off to you right now. So as I said before, I can confirm our C's in first. Then I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, easily 6 D's before the B is finished. So first goes to the C race, C category. Second goes to the D category. Third will go to the B category. And I understand what Edu Harms meant before. I see we've got a Howell Davies impersonator in the front B category. Ho Davies from the team CLS. So yeah, I can confirm our B's in third, and then it'll take Zwift Power a minute to confirm the A race finish, but we know that they didn't finish ahead of any other categories. So the final results on the day: C category number 1, D category number 2, B category number 3, and A category number 4. Congrats to all of our racers today. Great job to everybody. You know, the C racers had the numbers and the strength, some strong C riders in that front group, and they totally crushed it. The D racers had some numbers, but you know, just not quite the strength in the front group. They had a valiant effort trying to stick in the front group there, but wasn't quite able to hang on. You know, the B race also had some good numbers, and the gap was coming down. I feel for them, that was very close. And then our A race just really didn't have the numbers. All right, before you leave us, I do want to remind you to subscribe to the Zwift Race Plays for more live race coverage, community coaching tips, videos, and general Zwift knowledge. We're going to have a video coming out about the top 10 things all Zwifters need in the coming weeks. And, you know, don't forget to like this video if you enjoyed. Just looking over in the live chat right now, going to check and see what's happening. The last thing I read off was C's got this, but it looks like, yep, D should join next week to prevent this from happening again. So it sounds like Edu Harms wants to help out our D category so that they don't get caught and stuck in second place. Darren Green says Howell did just race in Paris before this. So impressive performance from Howell Davies, considering he just had a race in Paris. Then Darren Green says definitely joining next week. Training plan ride tonight. All right. So it looks like Darren Green and Edu Harms, we'll see you in the race next week instead of over in the live chat. And thanks for the congrats on the stream, Darren Green. All right. That's going to be me signing off for this week. We'll have live commentary and coverage of this event all through the month of February. We're going to switch over to some Tour for Kids live commentary for the month of March. Any juniors out there watching, you should check out the Tour for Kids. I can maybe provide a link to that down in the description below after this stream's over. All right, everybody, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week.